Anyway, welcome to episode 2 of.
Did you?
Welcome to episode 2 of. It's going to be a very short one. It's just a mini podcast. Look at Jamie scratching his head, looking out the window. Yep, we forgot to hit the record button. All right, we're going to start off with a quick call that was sent in from a fantastic guy called Andy. Andy's a Leeds fan, and Andy would like to know.
Hi, David. Really enjoyed the podcast. Some fantastic points made. But as a Leeds United fan, I obviously disagree with saying the season never happened. 2 points. Why can't the season be played to a finish, whenever that is? Then fans can celebrate properly and we can have the joy of watching relegated fans crying on Match of the Day. Also, who plays in Europe next season? Cheers, mate.
Right, so you raised good points there. I think his comment about watching fans crying on Match of the Day in the last part of the season, that was really neat. But I like that, it's good. All right. First question.
Only if they're City fans.
First question. I think the season's over. I think everything needs to stop. That's obviously what Andy was responding to. As a Leeds fan, clearly it's massively important for them to get promoted into the Premier League. They should be there. They're a Premier League-sized football club. They should be there. It's terrible really that they're not. Really important for them that they go up to the Premier League. As county fans, Stockport County fans, really important for us that they go up into the Football League. But, you know, we've had to take it off the chin, haven't we? What will happen? And I suppose this is where you and I diverged a few weeks ago, wasn't it? Because I said, stop it, scrap it. And you said, yeah, but you can come back and play the season. It doesn't matter when. Just that way.
Yeah, I said, put it on ice, freeze it. Everybody is where they are at the time. Do what you need to do the furloughing players and staff and sorting out player contracts and all that sort of stuff that you normally do. Come back and finish it in the winter or whenever it's safe to do so, and the next season, whenever that is, carries on as it was. The more that time goes on, it's obvious that more and more clubs don't want to do that.
Or can't.
Or can't. And, you know, football is slightly democratic at least, and they will, you know, they'll make a decision on that. But you have to accept that if you take the route of cancelling the season, you do just have to accept that some people are going to lose out.
Definitely. I think whichever way you cut it, whatever you decide to do, some people are going to lose out. If you carry on playing, if you carry on with the season when it comes back, let's say it comes back early next year, yes, you could say, right, we'll play the last 10 games, Leeds, win promotion, fantastic. But Leeds won't be the Leeds that it is today, and the teams that they're playing won't be the teams that they are today. In fact, some of them, many of them, maybe as many as 14, 15 of them, looking at their figures from another podcast, which I really, really enjoy, The Price of Football. I don't know if you've had a look at that. It's a fantastic podcast, so I recommend it wholeheartedly.
Yeah, not watched, not listened to the podcast, but I know I know of it, and I've noticed a lot of the stuff that they do on online and what have you, and it's always interesting reading. The thing that always comes out that strikes me is the unbelievably unsustainable revenue figures and the amount of money that clubs are spending on wages. You know, you've got some figures on the Championship, and it is astronomical.
Unbelievable. I think we spoke before, didn't we, about Reading, £227 spent on wages for every £100 that they bring in income across all income streams. So from TV, from everything else, for every £100 they get in, they spend £227 just on wages. I mean, it's crazy. The owners of that football club don't deserve to own it. That is no way to run a football club. They need to go immediately. And if the football club has to collapse into administration, so be it.
It's the nature of a lot of clubs, isn't it, that they're dependent upon their owners for for their money. And without it, Reading aren't alone. They're certainly not the only club that is running away where they are entirely reliant upon the well-being of whoever owns the club to sustain it.
The average was £102 in the Championship last year. £102 spent for every £100 earned on wages, just on wages. So the whole league is hemorrhaging money. The average loss was £23 million. That's the whole league. £23 million loss. Some of the clubs were losing £1 million a week. So how can they possibly survive until it's safe to come back and play football if they're losing £1 million a week or £500,000 a week, as near as damn it, when they're bringing in every penny? If they stop playing football, that means you stop earning money from advertising, from sponsorship, from TV, from ticket sales, from pies, from pints, from everything. You know, the money stops. So that's completely unsustainable. You're going to be talking about football clubs losing in the Championship between 50 and 100 million pounds between now and then. Well, they can't. How on earth can they sustain that? A lot of the businesses that own football clubs, or the individuals that own football clubs, they themselves are going to be impacted deeply by what's going on with the coronavirus. So the owners are very unlikely, in my opinion, to say, oh, good, my main business, which pays for this hobby I've got, which it is for a lot of people, the main business is struggling, we have to really concentrate on that. Oh, by the way, there's £100 million to keep Leeds going until the new year. It's just not going to happen. It's not. The clubs will end up in administration. It's been mooted that all 24 clubs could go into administration on the same day, all of them. It can be a joint thing. I'm not saying it's happening, it's been mooted. It is a legal thing that could happen. And the whole league, I mean, effectively, they drop a heavy one on every single non-football creditor.
But if you are, as we well know as supporters of a club that's been in administration, the consequence of an administration is you burn bridges and lose the goodwill that you've built up with your creditors. And certainly in our club's case, it took many, many years to get some of those people back on board, and some of them never will be. If the entire league does that, do you not just run the risk that people won't go near you again?
Yeah, but you do build new bridges, all right? So some people come back, and some people, new relationships are started. But I take your point. And yes, I think if the whole Championship did that, it would be a horrendous thing to do. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but it is an option for them. If you've got 10, 12, 15, 18 clubs in the Championship going into administration, and that is not unrealistic looking at the figures, then it might be an answer, it might be a solution for them. But I think more likely is that we'd end up with a Premier League 2. We'd end up with 20 clubs in the Premier League, 20 clubs in Premier League 2, and those 40 would be the haves, and everyone else would be the have-nots. I think that is a potential outcome of where we're at. So the bigger clubs with the bigger stadiums and the bigger opportunities, bigger fan bases, bigger opportunities to bring in serious cash, and also attractive for TV audiences, because, no due respect to Reading, who wants to watch them apart from Reading fans,
One of the other things that you have spoken about and as a potential solution is regionalisation. Yeah. And my experience of, my opinion of regionalisation...
Sorry, just having... You mean below that?
Yeah.
So I'd have Premier 1, Premier 2, something akin to a national championship, and then I would separate it out. So instead of having League 2, it'd be League 2 North, League 2 South. Yeah?
Now, I'm just interested in your thoughts on regionalisation, because in Stockport County's 6 years in regional football, most recently, before anybody mentions the fact that the third division used to be third division North, talking about modern football, I found it incredibly dull
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, not particularly regional.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying about that. Some of the places that we played in the League North, National League North, it took 3.5 days to get there, didn't it? You know, if you go to Hartlepool from Stockport, it's a horrendous journey. Whereas if you went and played at, say, Hereford, which is probably a similar distance, you're there in about just over an hour. It's maybe an hour and a half, but it's going north-south in our country. This side of the Pennines is very easy.
Substantially easier than east-west travel, isn't it? Do you think that the in your world the regionalisation then would be an East League and a West League rather than a North and South?
Yeah, I actually think you've made a really good point, and I would be perfectly happy with that. I would. East-West, why not? So we are the West League, West side. Right. We mentioned, or rather Andy mentioned, Europe. Yeah. So I need to answer his question. He said that, if you scrap the season, what happens to Europe places? Well, the FA nominates you for European competition. It's not like the Premier League places and the FA Cup. They are courtesy of the FA. So the FA could just decide. The FA could just nominate some teams. But I don't think anybody would think that was really fair. So I would say, well, if this season never happened, then you've got to go back to the last set of completed fixtures. And the last teams that qualified for the European Games, European competitions, would have been the 2018-2019 season. So you'd have had City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, and then Wolves and...
United, I think.
Yeah, and they'd go in. So I would just say, well, you've earned it based on the last completed set of fixtures. So I just put the same teams in again.
If I was a contrarian,
yeah,
to raise a counterpoint, not that I ever would be, obviously.
Yeah.
Spurs, as an example.
Yeah.
Well, we know Liverpool have been eliminated this year, but they'd already qualified. They were so far ahead that they've already qualified for the Champions.
Yeah, accepted everything.
So I don't think many people would argue with that. City, the same, and they're still in the competition as it is. Yeah. Chelsea are there or thereabouts. Spurs, in the current Premier League table, don't look like qualifying.
No.
And they've competed in the Champions League this season.
Yeah.
They've been eliminated because they weren't very good.
Yeah.
They've had the money for competing in it.
Yeah.
If you're Leicester City,
yeah,
you might go, hang on a minute, we're well ahead of you in the stakes here, and you've had your chance and you've blown it.
Yeah, but you'd be spewing if you're a Leicester fan, you would. But I come back to Leicester haven't achieved anything yet. All Leicester have done is had a good 3/4 of a season. Well, as we know, that doesn't mean anything. There's lots of clubs who are in promotion places or even at the top of the league until the very last game, and then they just fall by the wayside. There's lots of clubs that look like they're relegated all day long and get out of it in the last couple of days. So Leicester haven't earned it. Spurs did. Like I said before, there is no way of cutting this where you keep everybody happy. I will say this: if it's null and void, if the season never happened, if the FA, Premier League, EFL, National League, if they all say, look, we are taking a collective decision because it's not healthy, there's a national pandemic, it's not our fault, it's not their fault, and we've taken a decision that the season never happened, I don't think these judges and juries across this land who are going to be giving money to lawyers on behalf of football clubs like Peterborough, who are, threatening to sue and everything. Darren McAntony is quite clearly, from the conversation he was having with Barry Fry on his own podcast, they've thrown the kitchen sink at it this year. Barry Fry said it's the biggest budget they've ever had in the club's history, right? So no wonder it's paid off, right? Well, I'm sorry, Darren, I think you're a great guy, I think you're a really good owner, but on this one, you're wrong because you haven't earned it. And if you went to court and said, we've been hard done by, and there's a judge and a jury who are sat there talking about it. Probably wouldn't be a jury in that case, but never mind. There are people there who are deciding. They'd say, look, there's been a global pandemic. It wasn't safe to get over yourself. It's some lose, you lost by. That's
all that
barrister's opinion, you know.
Isn't all that Darren McAntony is saying, though, and his fellow 5 or 6 other clubs in League One, aren't they? They're not all saying they deserve to be promoted. They're saying they want the chance to prove it.
Yeah. But it's been denied by a global pandemic. It's not been denied by a football administrator. It's been denied by the circumstances. You know, and as I said, if we come back in 6, 8, 10 months' time and football can be played again at something resembling normality, none of those clubs are going to look like they do today. So, you know, I hear the word integrity. Oh, there's no integrity. The integrity of the football season is gone. It's finished. The only integrity I want to hear about in football now is financial integrity and structural integrity. That's all that matters. There is no integrity of the game. The game's been destroyed. Through nobody's fault, it has. And 1,400 players, 1,400 players out of contract in the EFL alone, most of them in League One and League Two. How are they going to get another club? Where are they going to go? Who's going to hire them? There might be the odd exceptional talent who will get hired, but I'm afraid for 1,200 of them, they're going to have to go and do something else. So we know football clubs hiring if they're not bringing any income in. They just won't be. So the football world's going to look very different when it comes back. So yes, Peterborough, Darren McAntony's solicitor, barrister, could argue we were denied an opportunity. And I think it would be very, very easy to say, yes, you were, and we agree, and we're very sorry it was you who were denied that opportunity. But it was denied by reality, by nature. Life sucks sometimes. I don't see a judge awarding them a huge amount of money. I think the judge is just going to say, I'm really sorry. But, you know, it's just the way it is. What were the football administrators supposed to do?
Has there been any suggestion that that there would be legal challenges?
Darren McAntony has said, for sure, he's already consulted solicitors. So.
Before you had your little recording disaster, I was telling a tale about Blackburn when they won the Premier League 25 years ago, and they were one of the best teams in this country.
Yeah.
And a couple of years before that, Kenny Dalglish was their manager. They were a very good side, and they were training on what we would now perceive to be Sunday League quality pitches.
Yeah.
Where they had to stop training to let hearses through because they were next door to a crematorium.
Yeah.
And that was at the top of the English game.
Yeah.
A quarter of a century ago. And then Arsene Wenger happened.
Yeah.
And the game changed. Do you think that, given the everything that's gone on, that we might see maybe not to that extent, but a bit of a step down in the quality of the competition?
No, I think they'll just have a bigger gap. You know, like we talked about before, the haves and the have-nots. I think the haves will have the best of everything, and the have-nots, yeah, maybe the regression is going to come for them because there's going to have to be a more financial reality, isn't there? Does a training ground that is just for the first team to play at make sense? No, I think it's got to be part of a wider development. It raises money every day of the week. So, you know, the kind of...
this is an interesting thing that I want to gather your opinion on as a businessman, somebody that likes football. Let's say you were a big fish in a relatively small pond, and you were a football club. You know, let's, for argument's sake, say you're in North Cheshire, and you need some assets.
Yeah.
Would building a training complex where you have, let's just make a figure up, 15 acres to play with.
Yeah.
And you donate 2/3 of that, or you reserve 2/3 of that for 3G pitches and gyms and all that sort of stuff to be used by the public. Monetised, private business, people pay for it. and the other third is for your club to do what it needs to do. Good thing to do.
Yeah, the only way to do it, to be honest. Definitely, 100%. So going back to your question about will things diminish? Will there be a reduction?
Yeah.
I think maybe. I think maybe the top end, the very top end. It's not going to affect Manchester City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United. They'll still get the players they want and pay the wages they want. They are in a different sphere, all right. But below that, yeah, they definitely I can see a drop off. Players' wages. If you're not contracted in a month's time, you're screwed. We discussed that before. If you was my player, as your agent, you're my player, and you're a player who can command a £10 million fee, yeah, and you've got a couple of years, 3 years left on your contract, my advice to you, just sit tight. Don't ask for another contract. Just relax. And if the club wants to sell you to generate some money, you're in the box seat. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere, mate. I'm quite happy where I am. We need to sell you to generate some money. Well, you can get me off the books. So you don't have to pay me wages by giving me a free transfer. No, we need to generate some money. All right, okay. Well, then, if you do something for 10 million quid, I want 4 million of it. Yeah. So players in a long-term contract are going to be in quite a good position. It's only if their club goes into liquidation, I don't mean administration, liquidation, that your contract is invalid. Even if the club goes into administration, you as a player are entitled to all your money, right? Is it right that? Is it morally right? Maybe not, but that is the situation. So players who are contracted, they're in a pretty good position. For clubs who are trying to sell players to generate some money, to bring some money and to keep going, well, it's a buyer's market, isn't it? Buyer's market, your house isn't worth as much. Buyer's market, your player isn't worth as much. Yeah. Buyer's market, the players' wages aren't quite as high as they were last week. Leroy Sané, I think at the beginning of this, there was much talk about him going to Bayern Munich. I think he's an incredible player, beautiful player, athletic in the way he moves.
Yeah.
And obviously, Bayern Munich, biggest club in Germany, he's a German international. It makes sense for him to want to go there. We're talking about 90 million being not enough. City were like, forget it, we don't want you 90 million pounds. I think 50, 60 we're getting today all day long. And that's as a direct result of him being available, coming back to fitness at a time when the football industry has collapsed. How many clubs are going to be in the market for a 50, 60 million pound player? Manchester City aren't even one of them. So yeah, everything's going to diminish. Everything's going to go south, in my opinion. There's absolute carnage to come. It's just carnage. Anyway, that's a happy note to end on, isn't it?
It is. Appropriate for the times.
Yeah.
You doing with your weekend? You watching the Bundesliga?
Oh, the Bundesliga. We've got to talk about that just for 1 minute, haven't we? If you are watching football with no fans, it is awful. I watched the game. Manchester United played. I can't remember who they played. That's how important it was. It was a Europa League.
It was a European game, wasn't it? Out in somewhere like Belarus or something.
Igalo scores a beautiful goal. It was awful watching it. Absolutely awful. And because it was just an atmosphere, it just felt like everything about the occasion was missing. And we, as county fans, we've had 5,000 at home with 7 and 8 away fans. And even with 5,000 at home, which for non-league is a huge crowd, it's still no atmosphere because it's
dismal. Yeah.
It
does bring home, doesn't it? How much of the, when you split up the different things that you follow football for, the game itself is actually quite a small part of the pie, and a lot of it is the atmosphere, the seeing your mates there, going to the pub for a pint or 7 before and after.
100%.
It's the game itself, even though we like it, is not. In a lot of cases, isn't even the driving factor. If we liked good quality football,
we wouldn't be
watching Stockport County.
I think football without fans is like non-alcoholic beer. You drive to the pub with every intention of driving home. So tomorrow, 3:30, I think the game's off. One way or another, people switch it on and they'll watch it. And after about 20 minutes, that no fans, no football thing will kick in, and they'll look at their non-alcoholic beer and it's all right. It's not bad. It's better. Oh bollocks! Get me a pint of Stella. I'll get a taxi home. That's it. Bundesliga, behind closed doors, is non-alcoholic beer. No thanks.
German football as well. The atmosphere at German football is so much better than it is here anyway. So I think there's a reasonable chance it'll be a massive culture shock.
Which team are you going to support?
Union Berlin.
Yes, same. Oh, they're not Union, the Union Berlin anyway. Yeah, but why then? Because I'll tell you why I'm attracted to them. Because the atmosphere in the ground is unbelievable.
They
I'm not even going to get that.
They're quite a cool, edgy club. They used to be associated with sort of intellectuals and what have you, but they're just these days they're cool,
right?
And they're a good bunch to follow.
German way.
Yeah, if you there's a guy that runs something called the Safe Standing Road Show.
Yeah.
Called John Darch, who he's a Bristol City fan, and he's been the sort of leading voice for Safe Standing for 20 odd years. He used to live in Berlin and is an Union supporter, and I interviewed him once, and I was having a chat with him, and he started talking about them, and I just started taking an interest in them. And the season after, they got promoted, and they're doing quite well in the Bundesliga. So good luck to them.
Right, okay. Well, it's been a pleasure. Have a nice weekend.
And you?
All
You've
right.
recorded this time, haven't you?
I have, yeah. Thanks to everybody who's commented. About 500 people have watched the show. That's brilliant. For a first episode, that's incredible, really. We've had some fantastic comments. One guy wanted to throw himself in a tree shredder after 10 seconds of listening to me moaning, apparently. So thanks for that comment. We've had Neil Summers from Proper Mag. He's a top guy. He threw himself out of a window, apparently. Couldn't go with the negativity. But like for about the other 498, like Andy, may not have agreed with what we've had to say, but actually enjoyed the show. So thank you very, very much. Keep getting in touch. Record the voicemails, send them in. You can send them into Twitter. You can send them into whatever you want to do. Facebook. Just get in touch and tell us what you think. All right? Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.